بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Assalamu alaikum. This is Wednesday, the 23rd of November 2022. And in our series Reflections on the Holy Quran, this is broadcast number 376. Today we are starting considering verse 106 of Al-Baqarah. And this is the first broadcast in looking at the words of this verse of the Holy Quran. These broadcasts are brought to you by Laser Lahore Ahmadiyya School of Education in Religion, which is a department of the Ahmadiyya Anjuman Islam, or also Ahmadiyya Association for the Propagation of Islam, also known as the Lahore Ahmadiyya movement. The Ahmadiyya movement was created by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib, and he taught that although non-Ahmadi Muslims believe that after the Holy Prophet Muhammad at least one more prophet can come, this cannot be right, because the Holy Quran says the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallam was Khatamun Nabiyyin, and the Holy Prophet explained it by saying, Ana Khatamun Nabiyyin la Nabiya ba'di. There is no prophet after me. I am Khatmun Nabiyyin. There is no prophet after me. So the Holy Prophet himself explained its meaning. And he also taught that people generally say that in our sources, Hadith comes first, and then comes the Holy Quran. And if you find in the Holy Quran something that contradicts the Hadith, then you reject the Holy Quran. And Hazrat Sahib said this is totally wrong. The Holy Quran comes first. We have Quran, then we have Sunnah, then we have Hadith, and then we have other things. If there is a Hadith that appears to reject the Holy Quran, then either you interpret it or you reject it in the final analysis. If nothing, no interpretation is possible. And he also taught that people jump at calling each other heretic and infidel and this kind of thing. But the Holy Prophet said, if one reciter of the kalima says about another that he is an infidel, then it's the person who says it who becomes subject to that edict. And Hazrat Masih Maud Mirza Ghulam Ahmad taught that people say some prophetic revelation is missing from the Holy Quran, and some that is in the Holy Quran is abrogated. This cannot be right, because God says that I am the Holy Quran's protector. And jihad, which is a fundamental duty of every Muslim, it's defined by the Holy Prophet. When returning from fighting, he said Muslims are returning from the minor struggle, Jihad Asghar, to the major struggle, Jihad Akbar. And Jihad Akbar is Jihad bin Nafs. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad claimed that in accordance with Hadith, he was a mujaddid in a series of mujaddids, reformers that the Holy Prophet promised. And the other Hadith speak of the Messiah and Mahdi, and he said these are not personalities but attributes of a mujaddid, and these ahadith applied to him. So let us turn to the verse of the Holy Quran that we are going to discuss today. Let me get the screen up with that verse of the Holy Quran, and let us see. Ma nansakh min ayatin aw nunsiha na'ti bi khairin minha aw misliha alam ta'lam anna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. I'm sorry, the typescript of Arabic is a bit small. Perhaps I should always use the Urdu. Anyway, whatever message we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, we bring one better than it or one like it. Know you not that Allah is possessor of power over all things. And the verse starts with Ma, which is simple, really. There's not a lot to say about that. This is what they call a conditional noun. What? And, well, that's it. The next word, it's important to consider. Nansakh. Its root is Noon Seen Kha, and it appears in the Holy Quran 4 times as 3 different words. Twice as Yansakhu, and once as Nuskhat, and once as Nastansikhu. And means to abolish, to abrogate, to write, transcribe, transcription. I mean, write is easy to explain because in Urdu, the font is called Naskh. One font is called Naskh. I mean, so, that applies to transcribing, writing, and transcription itself. But let us go to the word itself. An-naskhu, its basic meaning is that one thing removes the effect of another and replaces it. For example, when the sun comes, the light replaces the shade. And as sun moves, the shadow, the shade replaces the light of the sun. Or as time goes by, old age overtakes young age. And sometimes by it is simply meant to remove its effect. For example, in chapter 22, verse 52, فَيَنْسَخُ اللَّهُ مَا يُلْقِي الشَّيْطَانُ. And the doubts or the thoughts that the devil puts in people's hearts or minds, Allah removes them, cures them, replaces them. And then we have, in the similar way, we have Naskhul Kitab. Now we'll come to this later, but this verse that I recited just now, Ma nansakh min ayatin aw nunsiha naqti bi khairin minha aw misliha. The ayah that we abrogate, that we cancel, that we abolish, or cause to be forgotten. We reveal one that is better or just like it. We'll come to that in a minute, the detail of what it means. And if we consider this and consider it in detail, then we will see that the normal meaning that people have attributed to this word, this verse, is not correct. Yes, it does mean to remove one thing and replace it by another. One thing replaces another. As I said, shadow is replaced by light and light is replaced by shadow. But the way it's been interpreted is completely wrong. Generally, it is believed that there are many verses of the Holy Quran. You would be staggered if I tell you the number. 512 which are abrogated. And it means that although they are recited, they are in the Quran, but their command is cancelled, is abrogated. If this is what you believe, then what is left of the Holy Quran? What is left of the claim that this is God's book and it's to be acted upon? And these are there, the 512 are there just to be recited for sabab, for reward, for blessings. But the teaching in them, the commandments in them, they have been cancelled by other verses of the Holy Quran. But further than that, people also say that some of these verses of the Holy Quran, some ayah, have been abrogated, have been cancelled by a hadith, by the sayings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Quran was written down as it was being revealed. A hadith, sayings of the Holy Prophet, the earliest collection, which was a short book, I think its name was Muwatta Imam Malik, was not written for 80 years, I think. And all these, each hadith starts with the fact that A told B, B told C, C told D, D told E, who said that the Holy Prophet Muhammad said. There are 4 or 5 people before you get to the Holy Prophet, and the time span. If you ask me what I had for breakfast yesterday, I'd be hard put to tell you, let alone remember something for 80 years, and then it gets passed on. Let's look at another example. Not me telling you what I had yesterday, but I tell my son, and he tells his son, and he tells his son, and he tells his son, who tells his son. And 80 years later, the 6th generation is asked what I had for breakfast. How accurate is that answer going to be? But even more astounding is the normal belief, non-Ahmadi belief, that there is prophetic revelation which is missing from the Holy Quran. One I mentioned, Ayah Rajam. So we can summarize this as saying that there are many verses of the Holy Quran whose commandments have been abrogated, but which continue to be recited. And secondly, there are also commandments, wahi and nabuwat, which is not in the Holy Quran, which is missing from the Holy Quran, but the command remains. What I don't understand is, if the command remains, why didn't the companions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad put those verses in the Holy Quran? The whole of Holy Quran is recited during Taraweeh. It's recited aloud. In those days, it was oral tradition, and that was people committed things to memory. Paper wasn't very easy to come by. And by that time, there were hundreds, perhaps thousands of Muslims who committed the Holy Quran to memory. Why didn't anyone say, hang on, what about these? These are missing. We missed them out. Let's put them in. And yet, although the command is effective, it is said, the words themselves have been left out of the Holy Quran. But just think about it, that God reveals something to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, who tells everyone, people start acting in accordance with that. And then God thinks, hang on, I've just come up with a better idea. How about cancelling the old commandment and revealing this one, which is much better? What conception of Allah are you trying to give people? God is supposed to be all hearing, all knowing, all seeing. He knows the past, he knows the present, he knows the future. Now, if he knows the future, why didn't he know that this verse wasn't such a good verse to reveal, but this one was? But had to wait to reveal it. This is like human beings, isn't it? They make a law, the parliament debates it and so on, gets passed, becomes law, and then a year, 2 years later, let's take the example. Divorce wasn't allowed in this country. And then they said, no. If you can prove adultery, you can divorce. And then they said, well, what about if the husband beats the wife? Why can't he divorce him? So they said, okay, let's add unreasonable behavior. And so on and so forth, until we get to this point where there is now a no-fault divorce. Husband and wife, they say, well, he's not at fault, she's not at fault, but we can't live together. End of story. But are we reducing God to the same level? Effectively, this is what we're doing. That he reveals one thing and then cancels that and reveals something else. Even Hazrat Shah Waliullah, he said that 5 verses of the Holy Quran are abrogated. And then, I've said 512, which is the sort of general view, but it depends on who you talk to, which verse is abrogated. And the interesting thing is that the new verse doesn't actually say, I am cancelling verse XYZ, and now this is the new commandment. People have to guess which verse this is cancelling. What we have to see is that, look, Allah is making religion flexible. He's not abrogating anything. God says fast, but at the same time, the same place, God tells us, well, if you're sick, if you're in a journey, then, put it off to a more convenient time, or feed a sick person, feed a poor person, and so on. You're supposed to perform wuzu, but if you're sick or if you're somewhere where it's not possible to perform wuzu, then you perform the tayammum. But this is to allow human beings to act on fundamentals. This is, as the Holy Quran says, that God wants to make religion easy for people and not hard. And then to say that, the Holy Prophet used to forget, and then God will reveal similar verses. But why didn't God reveal the same verses and say, hang on, you've forgotten this, it was this verse? Why didn't God remind people that ayah rajm is missing from the Holy Quran? And it's amazing, isn't it? As I said, that, we don't have a later verse of the Holy Quran saying, I've been revealed to cancel verse so and so, and I am now effective. We have to guess. We have to make up things and so on. I mean, things, Ibn Kathir has spent a long 4 or 5 pages of small typescript on this, and saying that, and Imam Ibn Kathir quotes the Ayah Rajam that says this is an example of verses where recitation has been abrogated, but the command remains, etc. But then, after a long discussion of abrogation of the verses of the Holy Quran, he then he gives many examples, making a sensible point that as times changed, needs changed, and the law had to change. And he says, Adam and Eve had sons and daughters, and they were brothers and sisters, but they married each other, because without that, human race couldn't propagate. But after a few 100 years or whatever, this was forbidden. When Noah left the ark, he was allowed to eat everything. And because, food was so limited. But then later on, when food became more plentiful, then certain things were forbidden. And the best food was made lawful. And but when God changes something or abrogates something, it is crystal clear what is being done, not this guesswork that we have here. I mean, how can you have some people believing it's 512 verses of the Holy Quran which have been abrogated, and Hazrat Shah Waliullah saying it's 5 verses? I mean, okay, if it was 512 and 510 and 514 or something, you could say something. But on one hand, 512, and on the other hand, 5. Hazrat Shah Waliullah Rahmatullah Alayhi has actually written a whole book in this topic, in which he's discussed all of these things. Now, let's take an example. You could say that Abraham was commanded to sacrifice Ismail. But then, when he was about to do so, God abrogated his command. Because Hazrat Ibrahim and Ismail both said, well, if God has commanded this, then it has to be done. But can you not see? It's very clear. The first command is clear. The second command is clear. What it's abrogating is clear. There's none of this guesswork. Is it this one? Is it that one? And the other point to remember is that example given by Imam Ibn Kathir himself shows that when needs of the time changed, God changed the guidance he'd sent to humanity. You see, people think ayat, the word ayat, only applies to the Holy Quran. This is not true. God's revelation, whatever prophet it whatever prophet received it is called Ayatullah, God's revelation. Whatever prophet. So it's not just verses of the Holy Quran which are called ayahs, etc. And what was the objection to which this is a reply? The objection was there is already a revelation. There is already a revelation. God has sent his revelation. Do this, do that, and so on. So why are we getting a new revelation? What's the reason for that? And God says that whatever has been misunderstood, whatever has been forgotten or lost, not by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, but by people who were supposed to follow that revelation. Then we reveal, we send guidance, which is better than the previous one, which is in line with the needs of the time, and which refreshes your memories about God's teachings and God's commands. It has nothing to do with verses of the Holy Quran that we are told are being revealed and so on. The example would be that Torah had a set of rules. And if you read the New Testament, Injil, you will find that Hazrat Isa, Jesus Christ, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, he changed many of the rules. Many of the rules. Jewish law was very harsh. He softened it, etc. I've gone over my time, so I'll stop here, but we'll continue with this perhaps in our next broadcast, and the broadcast maybe after that as well. So I take my leave of you with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, may Allah keep everyone safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.